The story of Rockstar Games begins far from the glitz of Los Angeles or the skyscrapers of New York. It starts in the gritty industrial town of Dundee, Scotland in 1987, with a small development team led by David Jones. Jones, a former civil engineering student, launched a company called DMA Design, with a passion for innovation in the still young world of video gaming. Early on, DMA collaborated with British game publisher Psygnosis, producing arcade-style games like Menace and Blood Money. However, DMA's breakout hit came in 1991 with the release of Lemmings, a creative puzzle game where players guided tiny creatures through obstacle-laden levels. Lemmings became a global phenomenon and was praised for its originality and mass appeal. Despite the game's success, DMA Design began to outgrow its kid-friendly image. David Jones and his team were becoming more curious about what else games could do, not just as entertainment but as expression. By the mid-90s, a new project called Race and Chase began to take shape. The idea was radical, a game where the player wasn't the hero stopping crime, but the criminal causing it. It featured car chases, gunplay, and an urban open-world design unheard of at the time. Publishers were hesitant, censors raised eyebrows, but the DMA team persisted. Eventually, the game was renamed Grand Theft Auto. Around this same time, Take-Two Interactive, an up-and-coming American game publisher, was looking to shake up the industry. Recognizing the untapped potential of DMA's work and the radical vision of GTA, they acquired the company in 1998. The real game changer came when Sam Houser, a former BMG executive with a deep love of film, hip-hop, and counterculture, took the reins. He and his brother Dan Houser envisioned video games as more than just entertainment. They saw them as a serious artistic medium. Sam and Dan formed Rockstar Games, not just as a brand, but as a philosophy. Bold, irreverent, cinematic, and provocative. Their mission: to push boundaries, challenge the norm, and elevate gaming into a new cultural force. Rockstar wasn't interested in playing it safe. It wanted to shake the system. And with Grand Theft Auto, they would. When Grand Theft Auto finally hit shelves in late 1997, the world of gaming would never be the same. Developed by DMA Design and published under the fledgling Rockstar label, GTA was an unexpected mix of top-down visuals, chaotic gameplay, and open-ended crime simulation. It lacked the polish of major blockbusters of the era, but what it had was something far more potent: attitude. The player wasn't a cop. They weren't saving the world. They were stealing cars, outrunning the law, gunning down enemies, and getting paid to cause as much destruction as possible in gritty, fictional cities like Liberty City, a nod to New York. It was thrilling, rebellious, and to many, deeply disturbing. Almost immediately, moral outrage erupted. In the United Kingdom, politicians like Keith Vaz and media watchdogs began calling for the game to be banned. In the United States, conservative advocacy groups and religious organizations accused the game of encouraging delinquency. Headlines in British tabloids branded it as murder simulation. The public backlash was intense, but for Rockstar, it was the perfect storm. The Housers understood something revolutionary: controversy sells. Rather than shy away from criticism, Rockstar leaned into it. Their marketing leaned on the game's bad boy reputation, practically daring players to defy society's expectations. Teenagers and young adults, already immersed in the post-Nirvana, anti-establishment culture of the late 90s, flocked to it. Rockstar had created not just a game, but a statement. Behind the scenes, the game's development had been chaotic. Bugs, delays, and internal disagreements nearly killed it. But its release proved that there was a huge, hungry market for games that didn't follow the rules. Despite the firestorm, GTA went on to sell over 1 million copies, laying the foundation for what would become one of the most controversial and profitable franchises in entertainment history. With one risky, pixelated title, Rockstar Games had arrived, and the world had taken notice. For better or worse, in October 2001, just a month after the 9/11 attacks, Rockstar released a game that would permanently change the landscape of interactive entertainment: Grand Theft Auto 3. This was no longer a top-down crime simulator. Now fully rendered in 3D, GTA 3 placed players in the immersive world of Liberty City, a grimy metropolis inspired by New York. The game was revolutionary, offering an open-world sandbox where players could drive, shoot, explore, and live out a criminal fantasy with few boundaries. It had voice acting, a cinematic plot, satirical radio stations, and a living, breathing city. It was like nothing else on the market, and it terrified people. The timing of the release could not have been more controversial. In the wake of national trauma, American culture was on edge. Violence in media was under renewed scrutiny, and Rockstar had just released a game where players could gun down civilians, visit prostitutes, and blow up cop cars for fun. The outrage was swift. Politicians across the U.S. denounced the game. Senator Joe Lieberman and California State Senator Leland Yee were among the many calling for stricter regulations and outright bans. Parent advocacy groups claimed the game promoted lawlessness. News programs ran segments questioning if video games like GTA 3 were responsible for desensitizing youth. But Rockstar had learned from past controversies. The Hauser brothers understood how to spin infamy into success. They didn't apologize. They doubled down. Their public relations strategy was to let the product speak for itself, and the numbers were staggering. GTA 3 sold millions of copies. Within months, becoming the best-selling game of 2001, critics too couldn't ignore its innovation. Major gaming outlets like IGN and GameSpot hailed it as a masterpiece, and developers around the world saw GTA 3 as the blueprint for the future of open-world design. Rockstar had pulled off the impossible. They had created a lightning rod of cultural controversy and one of the most beloved games of all time. But with that newfound fame came a wave of legal battles that would soon explode into the public arena. As GTA 3 soared in popularity, a new name emerged as Rockstar's greatest nemesis. Jack Thompson, a fiery Florida-based attorney and self-described culture warrior. Known for his crusades against rap music and violent media, Thompson saw Rockstar and the Grand Theft Auto franchise as a threat to society's moral fabric. His campaign began to gain traction in 2003 when he linked GTA to several real-life violent crimes. One high-profile case involved Devin Moore, an 18-year-old who played GTA obsessively and then murdered 3 police officers in Alabama. Thompson seized on the incident, claiming the game had trained Moore to kill. He sued Rockstar Games and Take-Two Interactive on behalf of the victims' families, launching a national firestorm. The media ate it up. Talk shows, CNN segments, and op-eds debated whether video games were corrupting America's youth. Thompson became a regular on TV, accusing Rockstar of glorifying murder, sexual exploitation, and sociopathic behavior. He called GTA a murder simulator and labeled the Hauser brothers as morally bankrupt profiteers. Rockstar, in contrast, largely stayed quiet publicly, but was fiercely defiant behind the scenes. Their legal teams pushed back aggressively, getting many of Thompson's lawsuits dismissed on free speech grounds. Courts repeatedly found that there was no direct evidence linking video games to violent crimes, only correlation, not causation. Still, the controversy didn't go away. Between 2003 and 2007, Rockstar faced multiple lawsuits, public protests, and constant pressure from lawmakers. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, and San Andreas only added fuel to the fire with their even more outrageous content. But ironically, Thompson's attacks may have only strengthened Rockstar's brand. To millions of gamers, Rockstar was now the rebellious underdog, fighting against censorship, defending artistic freedom, and thumbing its nose at political correctness. Thompson, on the other hand, began to unravel. In 2008, after years of erratic behavior and courtroom outbursts, he was disbarred by the Florida Supreme Court for professional misconduct. Rockstar had survived its fiercest legal challenge, and in doing so, it had secured its image not just as a game developer, but as the face of cultural rebellion in the digital age. By 2004, Rockstar had released what many considered their magnum opus, Grand Theft Auto: San Andreas. Set in a sprawling, Fictionalized version of California, the game followed CJ, a young black man navigating gang wars, corrupt cops, and inner-city poverty. It was not just entertainment, it was commentary. San Andreas was critically acclaimed and commercially explosive, quickly becoming one of the best-selling games of all time. But in 2005, Rockstar would face its most explosive scandal yet. One that didn't involve guns or gangsters, but sex. Modders, tech-savvy fans who explored the game's code, discovered a hidden minigame in the San Andreas files. Dubbed Hot Coffee, the minigame allowed players to simulate sexual intercourse with in-game girlfriends. Though it wasn't accessible through normal gameplay, modders enabled it on PC versions, sparking a digital firestorm. The public reaction was immediate and severe. The Entertainment Software Rating Board, ESRB, had originally rated San Andreas as mature, 17+, but after the discovery of Hot Coffee, they reclassified it as adults only, a death sentence in retail terms. Major chains like Walmart and Best Buy pulled the game from shelves. Rockstar was forced to recall millions of copies, issue patches, and scrambled to release a sanitized version. The scandal reached Washington, D.C. fast. Senator Hillary Clinton publicly condemned Rockstar, accusing them of misleading parents and exposing children to explicit content. She called for a federal investigation and more stringent oversight of video game content. The scandal wasn't just about one hidden scene. It became a national debate over video game regulation, parental control, and censorship. Rockstar's official response was cagey. They denied that the minigame was intended to be accessible and claimed it had been left in the game files by mistake during development. But critics weren't buying it. Lawsuits were filed. Politicians pounced. Parents protested. Internally, Rockstar was shaken, but not defeated. The scandal cost them millions in lost sales, legal fees, and reputation. But once again, controversy turned into cultural dominance. San Andreas became infamous, and sales eventually rebounded. For many players, Rockstar's defiance in the face of censorship made them folk heroes of free speech in gaming. Still, the Hot Coffee incident was a clear warning. Rockstar's creative freedom now came with a powerful spotlight, and an army of critics watching their every move. Despite legal battles and moral outrage, Rockstar never backed down. If anything, the company leaned further into its role as gaming's anti-establishment provocateur. At the heart of Rockstar's identity was the Houser brothers, especially Sam Houser, who functioned as the visionary behind the curtain. Deeply influenced by American cinema, particularly Scorsese, Tarantino, and Coppola, Sam saw video games not as toys, but as a new form of art. His goal wasn't just to sell games, but to tell stories that challenged norms, reflected society, and provoked conversation. Rockstar's games reflected that philosophy. Every Grand Theft Auto entry was more than a crime simulator. It was a scathing satire of American culture. The in-game radio stations mocked right-wing pundits, consumerism, celebrity culture, and urban life. Characters were intentionally over the top, meant to reflect society's darkest corners, with an ironic twist. This wasn't mindless violence. It was social commentary, wrapped in chaos. The media, however, wasn't always interested in nuance. Major outlets often focused on shock value. GTA encourages violence, GTA exploits women, GTA glorifies crime. But for Rockstar, the media's condemnation was part of the performance. The company rarely gave interviews, avoided public statements, and refused to attend major gaming expos like E3. They let the games speak for themselves, and when they did speak, they were often cryptic, bold, and confrontational. At the same time, Rockstar carefully curated its image. Their promotional materials looked more like movie posters than video game covers. Trailers were cinematic. Even press releases had a rebellious tone. Rockstar wasn't just making games. They were building a brand around cultural rebellion, and it was working. Millions of gamers around the world idolized Rockstar not just for the gameplay, but for what the company stood for. Creative freedom, defiance, and unfiltered expression in a medium often sanitized by corporate interests. But this fierce independence would come at a cost. As Rockstar grew into a multi-billion-dollar empire, it faced new questions. Could they keep pushing boundaries in a world that was rapidly changing? Could they remain rebellious while becoming the establishment? The next battles weren't just about content. They would be about identity, labor, and the future of artistic freedom in the digital age. As Rockstar Games rode the wave of notoriety from GTA San Andreas, the studio took a brief step away from its flagship series, but not away from controversy. Instead, it doubled down on themes that tested the limits of what video games could say and do. In 2003, Rockstar released Manhunt, a psychological horror stealth game that made GTA look tame by comparison. Players controlled a death row inmate, forced to participate in a twisted snuff film, executing gang members using plastic bags, shards of glass, and barbed wire. It was grim, gruesome, and absolutely intentional. The backlash was immediate and fierce. In the United Kingdom, Manhunt was linked to the brutal murder of a 14-year-old boy, Stefan Pakira. Although police later confirmed that the killer did not actually own the game, the media ran with the narrative. Rockstar was vilified, Manhunt was banned in several countries, and retailers in both the US and UK pulled it from their shelves. Rather than back off, Rockstar returned in 2006 with Bully, a game set in a New England boarding school. It followed a troubled teen navigating schoolyard politics, cliques, and authority figures. Unlike GTA, there were no guns or lethal violence, but that didn't stop the outrage. Jack Thompson, now fully entrenched in his anti-Rockstar crusade, branded Bully a Columbine simulator before even playing it. He filed lawsuits to block the game's release, arguing it promoted bullying and school violence. In Brazil, the game was outright banned. The irony? Bully turned out to be one of Rockstar's more thoughtful and restrained titles. Critics praised its satire, humor, and deeper message about teen alienation and authority. Many saw it as a sign of Rockstar's maturing narrative voice. But these titles, Manhunt, Bully, and eventually Manhunt 2, highlighted Rockstar's unique position in the gaming world. No other studio was both as admired and feared, both celebrated and condemned. To their fans, they were fearless artists. To their critics, they were dangerous provocateurs. And all the while, the world waited to see what Rockstar would do next. In 2008, Rockstar returned to its crown jewel with the release of Grand Theft Auto 4. And it wasn't just a game. It was a statement of artistic evolution. Gone were the exaggerated colors and over-the-top characters of earlier entries. GTA 4 embraced a darker, more grounded tone, telling the story of Niko Bellic, an Eastern European immigrant navigating the moral ambiguities of the American dream. Set in a grittier, more realistic Liberty City, the game tackled war trauma, betrayal, capitalism, and corruption, while still offering the chaotic freedom fans expected. But even with a deeper story, controversy persisted. Media outlets criticized the game's drunken driving minigames, its depiction of torture, and its in-game relationships with strippers and prostitutes. Politicians renewed calls for stricter regulation. Australia nearly banned the game, but none of it could stop the tidal wave. GTA 4 earned $500 million in its first week, setting a new entertainment record at the time. Then, in 2013, Rockstar detonated the biggest bombshell in gaming history, Grand Theft Auto V, with 3 playable protagonists, a massive open-world spanning city, desert, and ocean, and a new layer of online multiplayer, GTA Online. The game represented the culmination of everything Rockstar had built over a decade. But it also pushed the envelope like never before. The game featured graphic torture scenes, including one where the player must rip out teeth with pliers, heists, strip clubs, and full nudity. A playable psychopath, Trevor Phillips, whose missions included dismemberment and rampage predictably. Critics attacked it for misogyny, violence, and glorifying crime. Feminist groups slammed the near-complete absence of meaningful female characters. Some retailers in Australia and New Zealand even pulled the game from stores after public backlash, and yet, the game's popularity defied belief. GTA 5 grossed $1 billion in just 3 days, breaking every sales record in the entertainment industry. It became the highest-grossing media product of all time, eventually earning over $8 billion worldwide. But GTA 5 also represented a turning point. Rockstar was no longer the scrappy rebel. It was now a global empire. Its games shaped pop culture, influenced music, and redefined digital storytelling. Still, as cultural values evolved, new questions emerged. Was Rockstar adapting, or stuck in its edgy past? As the studio looked ahead to GTA 6, it faced a challenge even bigger than censorship, remaining relevant in a world that was finally catching up to its own provocations. By the late 2010s, Rockstar Games was no longer just a developer. It was an institution. With Grand Theft Auto V becoming the best-selling entertainment product in history, and Red Dead Redemption 2 hailed as a masterpiece of storytelling, Rockstar had reached the pinnacle of global success. But with power came new scrutiny, and a deeper reckoning. In 2018, just before the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, a quiet storm broke out. In an interview with Vulture, Dan Houser casually mentioned that some developers had been working 100-hour weeks to finish the game. That single statement triggered a massive backlash, prompting investigations into Rockstar's internal labor practices. Former and current employees came forward with stories of crunch culture, toxic management, and burnout. Some described a climate of fear, where pushing back on unrealistic deadlines could mean career suicide. Others described Rockstar as a place of brilliance and pain, where passion was often weaponized against its own developers. The revelation tarnished Rockstar's image among industry professionals and gamers alike. The studio that once stood for rebellion and freedom was now seen by some as a corporate monolith, one that mirrored the very systems of exploitation it often mocked in its games. In response, Rockstar claimed it was undergoing internal reform. Leadership reshuffled. The company introduced more flexible schedules, feedback programs, and initiatives to prevent future crunch. By 2020, reports suggested that Rockstar was trying to shed its sweatshop image, aiming to become a healthier and more sustainable workplace. At the same time, Rockstar was facing another cultural dilemma: the changing values of the gaming community. In an era of increasing awareness about race, gender identity, and social justice, many players began questioning the relevance of Rockstar's older, edgy humor. What once passed as satire now risked appearing out of touch, or worse, regressive. Would GTA 6 still feature crude stereotypes, over-the-top misogyny, and unchecked violence? Or would Rockstar evolve, creating a game that was both bold and responsible? Insiders claimed that GTA 6 would reflect a new tone, possibly including a female protagonist for the first time, more nuanced storytelling, and even a re-evaluation of the company's satirical lens. But whether Rockstar could remain subversive while adapting to modern sensitivities was an open question. Despite the controversies, one thing remained clear: Rockstar Games had changed the industry forever. It made open-world games the gold standard. It proved that video games could deliver cinematic storytelling. It forced the world to take games seriously, as art, as culture, and as business. Today, Rockstar stands at a crossroads. Its legacy is filled with both triumph and turbulence. It has been hailed as a revolutionary and condemned as irresponsible. And yet, it remains one of the few studios whose every move, every leak, every delay, every announcement makes headlines. As the world awaits GTA 6, one thing is certain: Rockstar is still playing by its own rules, only now the stakes are higher than ever.